Welcome to the weather forecast on CIA TV channel. Dear friends, in today's forecast, we are going to break down exactly what you need to know about the weather that will be impacting the United States over the next 7 days. A very dangerous storm system is set to impact the United States over the next few days, with significant severe weather, including the risk of damaging winds, very large hail, and a few tornadoes. And we'll begin with what's happening across the country today. Right now, we have a ton of storms that have been ongoing over the last 12 hours, back over in the central and northern plains, and all of this energy will be moving into the Midwest. This is going to lead to another significant round of severe weather, one of which will be in the Midwest and another one back over in the central plains. This is only the beginning of a multi-day severe weather event, which is all beginning in the Great Plains and the Midwest. We'll move all the way as far east as the East Coast, the Ohio Valley, and as well as the Great Lakes region as we go into Wednesday and Thursday. Now let's talk about the severe weather potential for the next few days, beginning with today, and we have a double-barreled enhanced risk of severe weather, one of which is across Nebraska and another one across Minnesota in eastern South Dakota. We also have a large slight risk that extends back into Montana and Kansas, and a marginal threat that also goes into Wisconsin, where all hazards of severe weather will be on the table today, including the threat of significant damaging winds, especially across Nebraska, where we are expecting initially a few supercells. But it will eventually turn into a line of thunderstorms, which will lead to a more widespread potential for damaging winds between 70 to 85 miles per hour this evening. Very large hail is going to be one of the biggest concerns if you're back over in Minnesota, including the Twin Cities and also in the southeastern South Dakota. There is also a chance for a few tornadoes. We have a large 3% tornado risk across Minnesota and also back into Montana. I do want to point out though that we do have a 10% tornado risk, which means it's a more elevated threat for a few tornadoes across Minnesota. And then as terrains, the threat of severe weather will continue to stay very elevated back over in the central plains in the Midwest, where more scattered to more severe storms are likely, especially if you're over near Kansas City or even in central Kansas, where we have another enhanced risk of severe weather in place, where significant damaging winds, very large hail, and tornadoes will be possible. So right now, the biggest concerns will be damaging winds. Numerous damaging winds are likely. Large to very large hails is also a big concern. Right now, we have a 7% tornado risk outlined across many areas in central and eastern Kansas, just outside of Kansas City. The 5% tornado risk goes up towards Des Moines in Iowa. As we go into Wednesday, the threat of severe weather continues. I think we have another chance of an enhanced risk of severe weather on Wednesday. If we were to get one, it would probably somewhere around St. Louis all the way back up into southwestern Michigan. But generally speaking, we are at least expecting scattered severe storms with all hazards on the table, including damaging winds, hail, and a few tornadoes. The biggest concern if you're just to the south there, St. Louis, back all the way through central Oklahoma and North Texas will be large hail and damaging winds. I think the greatest tornado threat will be in and around St. Louis, all the way back up into the Great Lakes region just southwest of Kalamazoo. So here's the timing for severe weather today. And we do have some storms out there. We're going to have a very primed environment, especially across Minnesota, Wisconsin, and far northern Iowa, where we will have plenty of wind shear and instability, where we could end up seeing a small-scale tornado outbreak, assuming that we get some discrete supercells. So right now, when we'll start to see supercells fire off, especially to the south and west of Duluth, and then also back over northern Minnesota, we should have a cluster of storms ongoing. The greatest concern with that northern cluster will be large hail and damaging winds. These storms are going to be moving into western Wisconsin. Notice how we only have a couple right now being shown on the HRRR, and also a few back over in northern Minnesota. But keep in mind that this is not going to be much of a tornado threat. It will be more wind and hail driven. Nonetheless, still significant, just not as much of a tornado risk there. This is really the key activity that we need to be keeping a close eye on during. Then by the early evening hours is when a line of storms will likely start to form across areas near the Twin Cities. It is not a guarantee that we are going to see a storm fire down there, but if one were to, it is a very favorable environment for at least hail and wind, if not maybe even a tornado or two. By around 7, 8 o'clock tonight, we have a full-blown line of thunderstorms moving across Wisconsin and southeastern Minnesota. Then a bunch of storms will be firing off across Nebraska and northwest Iowa, where there will be a low-end chance for a tornado initially, but I think more than anything, a lot of wind and hail will come out of these storms. Then eventually after midnight tonight, all the storms are mostly over into Kansas and southern Nebraska. Then a few will be left over back over the Midwest. And if you're back over the Midwest, a broken line of thunderstorms will be moving through central Wisconsin by around 12 o'clock tonight, should fall apart by the time it gets towards Milwaukee and Chicago. We are going to see more severe weather on Tuesday and also on Wednesday in the Midwest. We back over in the Central Plains, a broken line of thunderstorms will be moving to the south as we get closer to midnight. It will be approaching Kansas City more than likely around 3 to 4 in the morning, but I don't really think there'll be much severe weather left. Then by the early morning hours on Tuesday, there will be some scattered showers and thunderstorms. Then eventually we should see another significant severe weather event take place here on Tuesday. We'll have a line of storms already ongoing across northern Colorado, western Nebraska, southwestern South Dakota, where damaging winds will be the primary hazard, but an isolated discrete supercell may fire up out in front of that line. If that does happen, we could see an isolated tornado, but really the bigger story is going to be what's going to be happening over in Kansas. And a lot of these storms right now are forecasted to fire off after sunset across central Kansas. Notice that we have some big supercells initially with the potential for very large hail, damaging winds, and even an isolated tornado or two would not rule out a strong tornado with one of these storms. Large cluster of thunderstorms here that it's going to form across central Kansas, where all hazards will still be possible, but the biggest concern being hail and wind. There will likely be significant flooding, especially if these storms are not moving very much. Eventually, as we go closer to midnight, these storms will congeal into probably one line of thunderstorms moving towards Kansas City and western Missouri. I don't really think it's going to make it super far into the morrow. Then back over in the Midwest for Tuesday, we are only expecting really just isolated to scattered severe storms during the afternoon hours. We'll likely just see a cluster form back over in southern Wisconsin and western Illinois. Biggest concern here being damaging winds, maybe a very low tornado risk. Eventually by around 7, 8 o'clock, this will continue to push towards Michigan, Indiana, and central Illinois, where I'm really not anticipating a whole lot of severe weather out of this complex of storms after about 6 o'clock on Tuesday. Now, as we go into Wednesday, things could definitely get very interesting across the Midwest and back through the Ozarks, as we are expecting an intensifying low pressure system to move into the Midwest. So definitely something we need to keep an eye on Wednesday here. This will be during mostly the afternoon hours. It will likely continue into the evening, but more as a wind threat, maybe an isolated supercell still going by around to 9 o'clock. And then eventually, as we go into the late evening hours, all these storms will start to weaken as they move across the Great Lakes in the Ohio Valley. If you're back over in the southern plains, we are expecting a bunch of storms to fire off from about Wichita Falls back into northern Arkansas. However, a lot of these storms will be hail and wind driven, really not much of a tornado threat down to the south there of Springfield, Missouri. Then beyond Wednesday of this week, we are expecting another round of weather as we go into Thursday across parts of the Northeast and the Mid-Atlantic. I do think significant severe weather will be in play in eastern from Ohio, Pennsylvania, Maryland, Delaware, many other states as well, where all hazards of severe weather would be on the table, including damaging winds, hail, and maybe even a few tornadoes on Friday. We will continuously update the storm situation in the next news. Please subscribe to the channel to follow. Thank you for watching the news on CIA TV channel.